My 32-year investigation into our family business revealed my father's decades of fraud. Now I have to choose between loyalty and justice. I never imagined I'd be sharing something like this, but I need perspective from people outside my family's influence. Using a throwaway account for obvious reasons. Annalena, 32-year, and until 3 months ago, I was the CFO of my family's pharmaceutical distribution company, a business my father built from nothing into a $500 million enterprise. I grew up hearing stories about how Dad worked his way up from a warehouse worker to CEO through determination and integrity. Those stories shaped my life. I got my MBA, joined the company at entry level, and worked my way up to prove I deserved my position. Everything changed when I discovered discrepancies in our import records while preparing for our annual audit. Small inconsistencies at first, shipping weights that didn't match declared contents, documentation with subtle irregularities, payments to consultants that led nowhere. Being thorough by nature, I started digging deeper. What I found shattered everything I believed about our family legacy. Our company's rapid growth wasn't just from hard work. It was built on an elaborate network of fraud, bribery, and counterfeit medications. For over 2 decades, my father had been importing counterfeit drugs, repackaging them in our warehouses, and selling them as legitimate pharmaceuticals to hospitals and pharmacies across the country. The scope is staggering. False documentation, shell companies, bribes to customs officials, an entire parallel operation hidden behind our legitimate business. The worst part? Some of these counterfeit medications were life-saving drugs for serious conditions. I found emails discussing acceptable failure rates as if patients' lives were just statistics. I confronted Dad last week. His response chilled me. He wasn't angry or defensive. He was proud. "This is how business works in the real world," he said. "Everyone cuts corners. I just found a way to cut them more efficiently." He talked about how many jobs he created, how many families he supported, as if that justified everything. Then came the offer: full partnership, doubled salary, complete control of the legitimate side of operations. All I had to do was understand how things work. When I hesitated, his tone changed. He reminded me that my signature was on countless documents over the years. In his words, "We're all in this together now, whether you like it or not." I walked out of his office feeling sick. I haven't slept properly since. Every time I close my eyes, I see the emails about acceptable failures. I keep thinking about how many patients might have received counterfeit medications. How many might have died. My mother called yesterday saying Dad's worried about my emotional state and suggesting I take a vacation to think things through. My brother, the company's COO, sent a lengthy email about family loyalty and protecting our legacy. They're closing ranks, but all I can think about is the lives at risk. I've secretly copied key documents and secured them off-site. I've spoken to a lawyer who specializes in whistleblower cases. But taking this public would destroy my family, put hundreds of employees out of work, and potentially send my father to prison. How do I reconcile my duty to expose this with the knowledge that I'll be destroying everything my family built? Am I betraying my family by considering going public, or betraying my conscience by staying silent? Update 1. Things escalated faster than I expected. The morning after my post, I'd arrived at the office to find myself locked out of key financial systems. It claimed it was a routine security update, but I knew better. My assistant let slip that there was a late-night management meeting I wasn't invited to. By afternoon, HR called me in for a meeting about concerning behavior. They presented a file documenting supposed errors in my work, unauthorized access to company systems, and emotional instability. It was a clear setup. They were building a case to discredit me if I went public. I resigned on the spot. Within hours, company lawyers sent a letter reminding me of my non-disclosure agreements and threatening legal action for any defamatory statements. They also reminded me that my company stock options would be frozen pending an investigation into my potential misconduct. The family response was immediate and coordinated. Mom showed up at my apartment with tears and guilt trips about tearing the family apart. My brother alternated between threats and emotional manipulation, claiming I was betraying Dad's legacy and destroying his children's future. Then came the serious pressure. Anonymous emails with photos of me entering my lawyer's office. Strange cars parked outside my apartment. My younger sister called, crying, saying Dad had canceled her wedding venue payment due to company financial restructuring. I moved in with my best friend Sarah and contacted the FBI. My lawyer connected me with a pharmaceutical industry watchdog group that's been investigating similar cases. What I thought was an isolated situation is apparently part of a larger pattern in the industry. Today's development. A former employee reached out after hearing about my departure. James worked in quality control until last year and had noticed irregularities in the testing protocols. When he raised concerns, he was first marginalized, then fired with a generous severance package and strict NDA. He's willing to testify about what he saw. More disturbing was his revelation about a cluster of patient complications at a hospital that received our cardiovascular medications. The cases were buried under settlements and NDAs, but he kept records. We're working with medical experts to analyze the data. The FBI investigation is moving quickly. They've been building a case against several pharmaceutical distributors, and our evidence fits a larger pattern. My lawyer is negotiating whistleblower protection and immunity deals. Final update, 3 months later. The last 3 months have been a whirlwind of federal investigations, legal proceedings, and personal revelations. I want to thank this community for your support during the darkest period of my life. The investigation. The FBI raid on our warehouses uncovered more than even I knew about. The counterfeit operation was larger than initially suspected, with connections to international drug trafficking organizations. They found a sophisticated repackaging facility hidden behind false walls in our main warehouse. The human cost is devastating. Medical experts identified over 300 cases of adverse reactions potentially linked to our counterfeit medications. 23 deaths are under investigation. Each number represents a person, a family, a tragedy that might have been prevented. Dad and my brother were arrested last week. The evidence was overwhelming. Emails, financial records, witness testimonies. Mom's still not speaking to me. My sister, after learning the full scope of what happened, has tentatively reached out. She's in therapy, processing what this means for her understanding of our family. The aftermath. The legitimate parts of the business were sold to a competitor who retained most of the employees. I've been working with prosecutors to ensure that innocent employees are protected. A victims' compensation fund is being established from seized assets. The hardest part has been confronting my own unwitting role in all this. While I never knowingly participated in the illegal operations, my presence in the company, my trust in my father, helped provide legitimacy to his schemes. I've spent countless hours with my therapist working through the guilt. I've received death threats from former employees who lost their jobs and messages of gratitude from families of patients affected by counterfeit drugs. The contrast is jarring. A documentary filmmaker has reached out about telling the story, but I'm not ready for that level of exposure. The future. I'm starting a nonprofit focused on pharmaceutical supply chain integrity. The experience has shown me how vulnerable the system is to exploitation. We're developing programs to help companies identify and prevent similar fraud schemes. The pharmaceutical industry has serious systemic issues that enabled this to happen. I'm working with advocacy groups pushing for stronger regulations and oversight. It's a way to channel my guilt into something productive. Looking back, someone asked in the comments if I regret my decision to come forward. The answer is no, but the cost has been enormous. I lost my family, my career trajectory, and my sense of identity. The girl who idolized her father's business success story is gone. But I gained something too: clarity, purpose, and the knowledge that when faced with an impossible choice, I did the right thing. The relationships that survived this ordeal are stronger for having been tested. I'm building a new life based on truth rather than comfortable lies. For others facing similar ethical dilemmas, the right choice isn't always the easy one. But we have to live with our decisions. The truth may hurt, but lies destroy. TLDR. Discovered father's pharmaceutical company was selling counterfeit drugs, became a whistleblower, lost my family but gained a clear conscience, now working to prevent similar fraud in the industry. Edit 2. Thank you for all the support and awards. To those asking, yes, I'm safe. No, I can't provide specific details about ongoing legal proceedings. Edit 3. Please stop sending interview requests. I'm not ready to discuss this publicly beyond this anonymous forum. Edit 4. Thread locked due to excessive personal attacks in the comments. Thank you to those who offered genuine support and advice.